Persistence is more than just a trendy term that ignites brief enthusiasm. It's the everyday cadence that molds your future, one decision at a time. If you've ever witnessed someone adhere to a regimen so steadfastly that it appears effortless, it's likely because they've made persistence an inner discipline, a continuous vow rather than a hit-or-miss strategy. Instead of awaiting the ideal mood, they depend on the strength of a steady approach, knowing that regular actions outlast sporadic ones. Motivation can wax and wane, leaving you open to distractions or doubts. But when persistence is intertwined with your daily life, it transcends fleeting emotions. You make showing up a habit, whether you're honing a skill, prioritizing health, or pursuing a cherished goal. Over time, these small yet recurring commitments evolve into tangible progress. Each morning or evening, you affirm that the journey is worthwhile, even when conditions aren't perfect, but are simply adequate for action. This daily formula replaces chaotic bursts of work with a calm, methodical pattern. Imagine laying bricks daily to build a sturdy structure. That's the essence of persistent effort. Even placing just one brick on an off day keeps the plan advancing. The beauty lies in how each modest success bolsters your self-belief, reminding you that goals don't need to be rushed. They can be built step by step, as long as you persist. When setbacks occur, it's easier to rebound because you're not starting from scratch. You've already established a pattern that reminds you of what's possible. Structure amplifies persistence, providing a supportive routine rather than a vague intention. That routine anchors you, shielding you from the pull of hesitation or distraction. As this pattern becomes second nature, you rely less on bursts of willpower and more on momentum, the steady push of taking similar steps repeatedly. In the long run, this steadiness becomes the bedrock of real transformation, guiding you closer to the person you aspire to be, one day, one effort, one persistent choice at a time. Persistence can feel elusive when your enthusiasm surges for a few days, then fades into old habits and sporadic effort. Many wonder why it's so challenging to stay on track when a goal first seems so inspiring. Often, people attempt enormous leaps in their routine or rely on a burst of motivation, only to find their plans unravel when life becomes hectic. The key to making persistence stick has less to do with grand resolutions and more to do with setting up small daily steps that become ingrained. There's a difference between wanting dramatic change immediately and building a lasting rhythm that continues under both favorable and unfavorable conditions. Momentum begins the moment you decide that incremental progress beats the occasional sprint. A routine, even if modest, establishes a reliable anchor that keeps you from drifting when motivation wanes. The strength of this anchor lies in its simplicity. The clearer and more manageable your daily formula, the easier it is to repeat day after day. If your daily practice becomes overly complex, you risk turning it into a cumbersome task you dread rather than a sustainable ritual you can uphold. An effective day-by-day approach harnesses small wins. You might devote just minutes to a skill or commit to a brief but focused workout. In isolation, these actions look tiny, yet done continuously, they compound in surprising ways, not only by increasing your knowledge or fitness level, but by reinforcing the narrative that you are someone who shows up. That self-perception can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You keep acting persistently because your identity starts to revolve around reliability rather than sporadic bursts of determined activity. Timing also plays a role in making daily persistence smooth. If you schedule something at a point in the day when energy is low or distractions are high, it's more likely to be skipped or rushed. By observing your natural rhythms, you can select a window that matches the task's demands. Early morning for mental clarity, late afternoon for certain physical activities, or another time that aligns well with your lifestyle. Matching tasks to the proper time slot may seem trivial, but it helps prevent daily friction that wears down good intentions. Habits become anchors of continuity, yet they require deliberate setup. You can't expect a new routine to form without some initial push. Let's say you want to practice a musical instrument daily. Place it in a visible spot and consider linking the practice to an existing habit, right after breakfast or as soon as you get home from work. This pairing, sometimes called habit stacking, leverages an action you already perform reliably, which helps reduce the mental load of deciding when or whether to practice. Over time, the repeated sequence forms a mental connection, and it becomes odd not to practice once you finish that earlier activity. Persistence also benefits from a focus on process rather than outcome. Many people measure success only by whether they've reached a major milestone, neglecting the everyday steps that shape the final result. Yet the day-by-day formula is precisely about embracing the journey. You remove some of the pressure by reminding yourself that as long as you complete today's step, you're still moving in the right direction. This perspective makes it easier to handle setbacks since your self-worth isn't tied exclusively to external markers. If you stay true to your daily plan, you've succeeded in practicing persistence. Challenges inevitably arise, unforeseen events, dips in morale, or even second-guessing whether your chosen path is worthwhile. A major advantage of daily persistence is that it becomes an ally when the path feels uphill. You don't rely on waking up each morning with fresh zeal. You rely on a pattern that's already in motion. That pattern can act like a safety net, catching you on the days your spirit lags because you've minimized the decision-making required. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like doing it?" you remind yourself, "This is what I do." A day-by-day formula also makes room for incremental improvement. If you consistently work at something, you gather a rich record of small lessons, refining your approach faster than if you attack the issue sporadically. The continuous engagement allows you to spot errors quickly, notice patterns, and adjust your methods before wasted time accumulates. Imagine practicing writing a little every day over a month. You'll have 30 samples to review, test, and tweak, rather than one big session that's harder to dissect. The immediate feedback loop that comes from daily repetition fosters steady gains, an attribute of persistence often overlooked by those enamored with intense but short-lived efforts. As you settle into a stable pattern, you build confidence in your ability to adapt and stay focused. That confidence can then spill over into other areas of your life. Once you see it's possible to maintain regular exercise or daily reading, you realize you can apply the same disciplined approach to learning a new skill or reorganizing your finances. The underlying principle remains the same: define a manageable routine, commit to it, and let the cumulative effect unfold. Some worry that this methodical approach might extinguish spontaneity or joy, but in reality, a consistent structure often frees you to savor unplanned moments more fully because vital tasks aren't left floating in uncertainty. You know you've allocated time to your priorities. So if an unexpected opportunity for fun arises, you can indulge without guilt, secure that you won't derail your progress. This balance of planned action and open space fosters a sustainable pace, one where you neither burn out nor deprive yourself of life's pleasures. In essence, persistence thrives when supported by strategic planning, small daily targets, an awareness of natural energy cycles, and a focus on process over immediate results. If you take this approach, you shift from sporadic striving to a measured journey. Each day becomes another step in a purposeful dance, linking your present actions to a more accomplished and self-assured future. And with every repetition, you reinforce the idea that persistence isn't about perfection, it's about the daily promise you keep to yourself, inching closer to your goals with each deliberate choice. Long-term persistence also relies on a clear sense of why each task matters. Many routines fail because they're tied to superficial or hastily chosen goals that lose appeal once novelty wears off. When your deeper motivations remain fuzzy, it's easier to skip a practice session or push aside a daily commitment, especially if the payoff isn't immediately visible. But if you can link each small step to a bigger reason, improving well-being, mastering a craft, contributing to others, your mind begins to see that routine not as a chore but as an investment in what you value. Honesty with yourself is a cornerstone. If you claim you're too busy yet still find hours for idle diversions, it might mean you haven't genuinely locked onto a reason compelling enough to drive daily repetition. That doesn't make you lazy or unmotivated. It might signal that you need a clearer purpose behind the action. Reflecting on what outcome genuinely inspires you can illuminate whether you're attempting a goal that aligns with your core values or whether you've latched onto something that feels lukewarm at best. Once you do have a genuine reason, the day-by-day persistence is less forced. It starts to feel like following through on a personal promise rather than fulfilling an obligation someone else suggested. A helpful tactic is to regularly ask, what does success look like at the end of today? Not in terms of massive leaps, but in terms of what meaningful progress would look like over the next few hours. The mind can get overwhelmed by large, distant outcomes, but tangible daily targets create a near-term focus that makes the act of persistence more tangible. If you're learning a language, success might be reviewing vocabulary for minutes. If you're refining an artistic skill, it might be one focused sketch. Over a year, these quick hits accumulate into significant development, all because you consistently fed that skill daily nourishment. It can also help to reduce your exposure to temptations that pull you away from your routine. If your goal is to write every evening, but the moment you sit down, you see numerous distractions in plain sight, persistence becomes a harder hill to climb. By managing your environment, maybe clearing the space, or removing objects that lead you off track, you remove small obstacles that erode the will to stay persistent. The fewer mental negotiations you have to make, the smoother it is to slip into that daily formula. Mental dialogue can also shape your commitment. If you routinely tell yourself, "I always quit," or "I never finish what I start," you wire your brain to see inconsistency as inevitable. Consciously replacing those thoughts with, "I'm someone who values daily growth," may feel awkward at first, but your self-talk holds power. Little by little, each affirmation nudges you toward acting like the person you describe yourself to be. It's not about pretending struggles don't exist. It's about choosing language that encourages you to follow through. Though persistence thrives on stable habits, it's wise to allow occasional flexibility. Life is unpredictable. Travel, unexpected commitments, or personal events will sometimes disrupt your schedule. A rigid plan that breaks down at the first sign of trouble isn't ideal. Instead, you can form contingency plans. If you can't do your full routine, you do a shorter, modified version. This tactic preserves a sense of forward motion, ensuring you don't completely abandon the habit but adjust it to fit the day's circumstances. That flexibility keeps you from an all-or-nothing mindset where one missed day becomes an excuse to quit altogether. Progress tracking can amplify the persistence cycle. Recording each completed session or daily target, even with just a simple mark on a calendar, sends a small jolt of satisfaction. This record also exposes patterns. Maybe you're persistent every weekday but often skip on weekends, or you notice a dip at certain times of the month. That awareness can highlight areas for fine-tuning. Furthermore, seeing a string of successful days lined up can create a mental barrier to breaking your streak. You think, "I've come this far, let me keep it going," which is a subtle but effective motivator to show up once again. A day-by-day formula isn't about static repetition either. You're allowed to evolve your routine as you learn what works best or as your goals shift. The central idea is to maintain a consistent heartbeat of activity rather than randomly changing things without reason. This approach fosters a blend of stability and adaptability. You keep the commitment to daily progress but remain open to refining how that daily progress is achieved. Over time, this synergy encourages both growth and staying power, offering a balance that purely rigid or purely casual strategies rarely achieve. It's worth remembering that persistence doesn't erase hard work, it channels it. You're still putting in effort, but in more regular and digestible chunks, reducing the likelihood of burnout. This is why many who follow a daily formula say it's liberating rather than limiting. They no longer cycle between extremes of intense push and long lulls. Instead, they allow a natural cycle of action and rest, trusting the incremental gains to accumulate. And that trust is the essence. You trust the process, trust the compounding effect of small actions, and trust yourself enough to believe you're capable of showing up consistently. Comparisons often arise when you see someone consistently achieving milestones while you struggle to find that daily spark. It may be tempting to assume they possess an innate drive or a level of discipline you simply don't have. In reality, what sets them apart is rarely extraordinary willpower. It's that they've mastered the practice of aligning each day's small actions with a broader direction. This sense of alignment bridges the gap between daily routines and higher ambitions. Whenever the mind questions, "Shoot, why bother doing this today?" the answer is already woven into that personal map, guiding them toward a deeply valued objective. Resisting distractions is another core element. Even decades ago, temptations existed: idle conversations, daydreaming, or aimless wandering. Each generation faces its own forms of diversion, whether it's the latest social event, an endlessly entertaining show, or a personal hobby that starts overshadowing primary goals. Persistence means acknowledging these diversions but choosing your primary task at the appointed time rather than letting the day slip away. This skill isn't about self-denial. It's about deciding which activities deserve priority in each moment. Those who master this art gradually notice that it becomes second nature to steer themselves back on course whenever they begin to drift. An often overlooked aspect of persistence is how it naturally builds patience. When you operate on a day-by-day formula, you come to terms with the idea that worthwhile results seldom materialize instantly. Each incremental action is a vote for the future you want, like casting a ballot every day in favor of your long-term vision. This shift in mindset helps combat the restless urge to measure progress prematurely or abandon the effort if immediate gains aren't visible. Patience honed through persistent practice allows you to ride out periods when progress feels slow or invisible, trusting that these small acts accumulate in meaningful ways. Celebrating incremental milestones prevents your routine from becoming a dull grind. If you're learning a new language, a weekly nod to how many words you've mastered can invigorate your drive. If you're writing daily, the day you complete a certain number of pages might call for a small personal reward, a walk outside, a chat with a friend, or a relaxing pastime. These mini celebrations aren't just nice extras. They serve as psychological markers that reinforce the habit. They remind you that you're making tangible strides, giving you emotional fuel to keep repeating the process day after day. Examining who you spend time with also shapes your persistence. Engaging frequently with people who share a similar aspiration or who appreciate persistent effort can spark mutual encouragement. Accountability becomes more natural when a colleague or friend checks in or when you share experiences and tips with someone on the same journey. On the other hand, surrounding yourself with people who continually dismiss your routines or coax you into lazy detours can subtly undermine your diligence. Being mindful of these social influences isn't about cutting ties with those who don't share your goals. It's about reinforcing your environment with at least a few supportive voices that nudge you towards steady practice rather than sporadic bursts. Adapting to life changes is another phase where a day-by-day approach excels. Rigid plans that never accommodate shifting work schedules, family matters, or personal obstacles tend to collapse. But if your method is flexible, focusing on the principle of daily effort rather than a single unchangeable routine, you can make minor adjustments in response to circumstances without losing the core habit. Perhaps your usual morning slot isn't possible for a month due to travel or extra duties. With the right mindset, you shift your practice to evenings or another slice of time. The persistence resides in the fact you still honor your daily pledge, though the exact form or timing might have altered slightly. Reflecting on progress at regular intervals crystallizes learning. A monthly or quarterly review, for example, can help you see patterns. Are you consistently meeting your daily marks? Do you feel stagnation in certain areas? Such reflection not only keeps the routine from becoming mindless repetition, but also informs you of when and where to push a bit harder, or shift tactics. Building reflection into your cycle ensures that persistence doesn't turn into stale autopilot, but remains a living process where you adapt to your evolving goals and experiences. Mindset around failure is also critical. Missing one day or falling short of a target isn't a verdict on your capacity for persistence. It's a nudge to return the following day. If you skip a planned session, or find yourself giving a half-hearted effort, the daily formula still holds. You only need to resume the next day by viewing occasional slip-ups as temporary deviations rather than catastrophes. You maintain your momentum. This viewpoint guards against the common trap of letting one stumble unravel all your prior progress. Establishing a system for external accountability can fortify your personal resolve. Maybe you share your goals with a mentor, or keep a mutual check-in arrangement with a friend pursuing similar ends. The knowledge that someone else is aware of your commitment encourages you to honor it daily. Though intrinsic motivation is powerful, external support can add a layer of commitment that helps sustain the routine when you're feeling less motivated from within. Over time, the combination of personal drive and social reinforcement raises the likelihood that persistence becomes second nature rather than an uphill battle. Persistence can also be nurtured by cultivating a flexible yet respectful relationship with your own limitations. Each person has different energy cycles, responsibilities, and personal challenges to navigate. Rather than forcing a one-size-fits-all routine that might clash with your natural rhythms, it often serves you better to adapt your plan so it feels supportive instead of punishing. If you find that early mornings leave you groggy, forcing a pre-dawn practice could drain motivation within a week, whereas a lunchtime or early evening slot might integrate more smoothly into your life. The crucial principle is the daily act itself, not the hour on the clock. So, choosing a schedule aligned with your biological and situational realities increases the odds you'll keep showing up. A common stumbling block arises from idealistic notions about how the routine should look. You may picture a perfect setting, ample time, total peace, unwavering focus, only to discover your day rarely unfolds with such precision. Life can be messy, chores beckon, errands pop up, or your emotions fluctuate. If you're rigidly attached to that dream scenario, the first sign of chaos can derail your plan. On the other hand, a more resilient attitude says, even if conditions aren't perfect, I'll complete a scaled-back version of my practice. Maybe that means drafting a rough outline when you'd hope for a fully polished draft, or doing a shorter workout when extra things consume your evening. These small compromises keep momentum alive. Persistence finds strength in flexibility, absorbing life's jolts rather than letting them fracture your commitment. A day-by-day formula also benefits from the mental technique of visualizing success before beginning. When you take a moment, just seconds really, to picture how you'll feel upon completing today's action, it bolsters motivation. You might imagine the sense of accomplishment from finishing those pages or the physical relief after a calming exercise. Even if your day is hectic, this brief visualization bridges the gap between intention and action. Sometimes we hesitate to start because the mind amplifies the effort, forgetting the reward. But consistently pairing a mental image of the result with the action makes it easier to slip into the routine, as you're reminded of the payoff at the end. Repeat it over weeks, and this small mental rehearsal can become a potent trigger, urging you to begin your daily practice. Alongside visualization, setting micro challenges within your larger routine can spark renewed engagement. If you're writing every day, you could challenge yourself to write a certain number of words more than yesterday. Or if you're practicing a musical instrument daily, you might aim to improve one tricky passage each session. These mini goals create pockets of excitement within the steady rhythm, infusing your repetition with an element of discovery. They can also clarify exactly what you aim to accomplish each time, removing ambiguity that sometimes dulls motivation. In the long run, these small innovations keep your practice from falling into a mechanical grind. Each day remains a meaningful contribution to your evolution rather than a rote task to check off. The social dimension cannot be overlooked. While a strong internal drive is crucial, sometimes the spark to remain persistent emerges or is reinforced by the people around us. Family members, friends, or a local community can encourage you to maintain your daily actions, whether by asking about your progress or simply lending moral support when determination wavers. Some set up accountability partnerships. You share your daily goal with someone and report back, and they do the same. This mutual exchange of updates can fuel diligence, as you don't want to let your partner down or face explaining why you skipped out without good cause. Over time, this support system transforms your routine from an isolated struggle into a communal experience, one that feels shared and affirmed. Persistence and consistency are also linked to self-compassion. It's easy to slip into harsh self-criticism if you miss a day or if you don't see immediate results. Negative self-talk can become a spiral that undermines the will to continue. Cultivating a kinder inner dialogue does not mean making excuses. It means acknowledging that life has its ups and downs and that improvement is a process. If you slip, you reflect on why it happened, adjust if necessary, and recommit to tomorrow. Ironically, being gentle with yourself in these moments often fuels longer-term persistence because you're less inclined to throw in the towel at the first sign of imperfection. Even in times of doubt, when you question whether your daily tasks lead anywhere tangible, the habit of persistence can ground you. You might not always see progress day to day, like watching a plant that seems to grow at an invisible pace. Yet, just as the roots of that plant spread unseen beneath the surface, your consistent actions lay a foundation of skill, understanding, and resilience. Then a moment arrives when the growth becomes suddenly evident, a performance improves, a project nears completion, or someone remarks on how far you've come. Realizing that hidden progress was unfolding all along can be an enlightening experience, reinforcing why the steady approach works even when the outcome isn't immediately obvious. You can also view the daily formula as a backdrop that simplifies other decisions. Knowing that a certain portion of your day is devoted to a key activity removes the energy drain of constant deliberation. Instead of debating whether you should practice your craft or engage in self-improvement, you act according to a pre-established plan. This frees cognitive space for more creative or strategic thinking, as you're not continuously negotiating with yourself over time. Over time, you'll likely notice that your mental clarity benefits from fewer internal tug-of-war moments, allowing you to focus on refining the quality of your efforts rather than just deciding if you're going to make the effort at all. A day-by-day approach may sound simplistic to those craving a quick transformation, yet profound change often arises from sustained, moderate actions rather than frantic pushes. Eventually, consistent practice changes not only your external results but also your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who respects discipline, who invests in personal evolution daily, and who, despite setbacks, refuses to abandon the path. That shift in self-perception can have ripple effects throughout your life, affecting how you approach relationships, solve problems, or greet unexpected obstacles. And once that sense of identity takes root, maintaining persistence becomes far less of a chore and more a reflection of who you naturally are. Persistence can begin to influence even how you handle unplanned successes. If a surge of good fortune arrives, a promotion, unexpected praise, or an accomplishment that comes sooner than expected, it's tempting to ease off the daily effort under the assumption you've made it. But those who maintain their routine, whether or not things are going well, safeguard themselves against complacency. They recognize that a fleeting high doesn't replace the need for continued growth. By pressing onward with the same steady pattern, they stay grounded, ensuring that a short-term peak becomes part of a broader, ongoing ascent rather than a single leap followed by a slump. Emotional balance often improves alongside consistent behavior. Many find that sticking to regular habits, practicing a skill, scheduling reflection, or dedicating time to a passion creates an inner sense of order amid external chaos. If your environment shifts unpredictably, the knowledge that you'll still honor your daily plan can bring reassurance. Day after day, you begin to see your routine not as a cage, but as a supportive pillar. This feeling of stability can lower stress levels and foster a sense of control, even when life around you seems anything but stable. Those who consistently show up often develop a quiet self-confidence. They may not trumpet their every achievement, but they know that day by day they're inching closer to their goals. That steady commitment contrasts with the flashier but more erratic methods some attempt. The beauty of a reliable pace is that it doesn't hinge on being in the perfect mood. Instead, it taps a gentle but persistent form of self-trust, reminding you that good days and bad days both contribute to the greater whole. If you maintain consistent effort, eventually those around you take notice. Not because you constantly broadcast your routine, but because results quietly accumulate until they're impossible to ignore. The word persistence might evoke visions of unvarying schedules and measured tasks, yet it also fosters creativity. Freed from the pressure of waiting for the perfect moment, you can explore new techniques or angles, confident that each day offers another chance to refine your approach. When each hour cycle includes a chunk of time devoted to a chosen endeavor, writing, painting, training, organizing, you get ample practice to experiment. Some trials may fall flat, but that's not a crushing defeat. It's part of a larger chain of attempts. And tomorrow brings another opportunity. Over weeks and months, this daily window for creativity can lead to unexpected breakthroughs that might never materialize under a sporadic schedule. Persistence also has a way of revealing deeper insights about what truly resonates with you. In the early stages, a goal may appear appealing based on external ideas. Maybe someone else found success in that arena, so you assume it's your path too. But after consistently engaging with that pursuit day after day, you either confirm its importance or discover it might not spark genuine passion. This clarity emerges because daily repetition strips away illusions. If you consistently feel drained or uninterested, you might realize you're forcing a commitment that doesn't align with your core interests. On the other hand, if you look forward to each session, it's a sign that you're walking a road that feeds your enthusiasm, making it far easier to sustain momentum in the long run. At times, real-life demands can collide with your best intentions, forcing you to choose which goals to emphasize. A day-by-day strategy doesn't guarantee you'll juggle everything flawlessly, but it does offer a framework that clarifies priorities. If you can only devote yourself fully to one or two major commitments daily, you'll likely cut out superfluous pursuits or time-wasting habits. This refining process not only preserves persistence, but also ensures you're placing energy where it matters most rather than scattering it across multiple half-hearted attempts. The outcome is a more directed effort that sees real progress rather than an array of unfinished beginnings. A day-by-day practice also helps temper perfectionism. Perfectionists sometimes stall on a task until conditions feel just right or endlessly tweak details in a single session, hoping to achieve flawless results. On the other hand, when you adopt a consistent approach, you learn that done is often better than perfect because you'll return tomorrow and improve further. This mindset reduces the all-or-nothing pressure that can smother motivation, encouraging you to produce workable drafts, prototypes, or partial achievements. Over successive days, iteration refines these efforts more effectively than one massive, high-stress push that leaves you drained. For some, the greatest revelation is how persistence creates a sense of identity over time. You go from someone who might occasionally dabble in an activity to someone who can truthfully say, "Hey, I do this every day," or "This is part of my life now." Even if you haven't yet reached a final destination or ultimate goal, you experience yourself as being on a genuine path. That identity shift is powerful because it shapes how you react to challenges. Rather than seeing obstacles as reasons to quit, you interpret them as wrinkles to iron out along the journey. You're committed to this sense of belonging to the process you've chosen, which is often as meaningful as any objective measure of progress. Persistence forms a sturdy foundation for bigger leaps when the time is right. While the main focus remains on daily, manageable increments, occasional windows of inspiration or opportunity may appear, allowing you to pour in extra effort. These surges don't replace your steady routine, they enhance it. Picture it like a musician who practices daily scales and exercises, then occasionally gets the spark to compose or perform at a more intense level. The daily work has prepared them for that moment. Without that underlying persistence, a sudden burst of creativity might lack direction or readiness. So, in a sense, the day-by-day formula doesn't stifle bigger ambitions. It paves the way for them to unfold naturally with genuine readiness rather than frantic scrambling. Another facet of persistence is how it improves resilience. If you're only active on your good days, you might crumble at the onset of a stressful week or emotional slump. But a consistent structure acts like a cushion, absorbing the shock. You remind yourself, I might not feel at my best, but I can still complete my basic routine. This consistent baseline keeps you connected to your path, ensuring you don't drift so far from your goals that coming back feels insurmountable. Over time, this reliability in tough moments strengthens your self-belief. You learn you can press on even at half speed rather than derailing the entire journey. Ultimately, a day-by-day formula reshapes how you engage with effort and outcome. Instead of pinning self-worth to a single finished product, you begin to take pride in the unwavering act of showing up. Each day's effort, no matter how modest, adds to your personal tapestry of commitment and growth. Like the steady ticking of a clock, this reliable beat drives genuine transformation. And even if outside observers only notice the final performance, you carry the deeper reward, the knowledge that every step was earned through a simple, consistent pledge. Day after day, that pledge weaves itself into everything you do until consistent effort becomes second nature, fueling both the mundane tasks and the grand ambitions that define your journey. Real persistence isn't about removing life's challenges or waiting for ideal conditions. It's about showing up in whatever capacity you can each day, trusting that these repeated efforts stack over time. By building habits that fit your current environment, you transform the act of pushing forward into a familiar routine, one that doesn't collapse under changing circumstances. There's humility in acknowledging you won't always be at your peak, but there's also power in the realization that persistence is forged through patience, adaptation, and a willingness to honor small steps. This daily formula removes the drama of all or nothing thinking, encouraging steady growth instead of brief spurts followed by stagnation. Over weeks, months, and years, day-by-day repetition deepens your skills, clarifies your focus, and shapes a mindset that perseveres under both sunshine and storms. And the greatest reward may be the conviction you gain in yourself, recognizing that however winding the path, you have the discipline and devotion to keep moving forward, one consistent choice after another.